If you want to be a successful content creator, you have to have a plan and you have to be organized. And that's because consistency is key and you have to provide quality content. I was previously using a different content planner, but I switched over to this content planner that I built and it's helped so much. I keep track of different ideas on the Idea tab, then I drill out the details in the content planner, and in the content calendar I can see exactly what content's being posted which day and what status they're in, and I can also see all my past content. Using the content planner is super simple and I have automation in place to make it even easier. First thing I'll do is on the Idea tab, I'll fill out the company, and this could be which social media you're posting to, or if you're doing content creation for a company, you'll put that instead. And then I'll put the type of content, so if it's a short video, long video, if it's research and development plus a video, etc. That way I can keep track of what exactly I'm doing for this content. Under Content Idea, I'll put a brief description of what this content's going to be about. I don't want to get too involved right here though, because this will be what shows up on the calendar itself. And then lastly, I'll simply put the status as Idea. And if you want to fill out the things to the right, you can, but you can always add that later on, which is a little bit easier. Once I'm ready to work it, I'll change the status to pending, and it will automatically move from the Idea tab to the bottom of the Content Planner tab. Now that it's on the Content Planner tab, I'll double click on the date, and I'll select either the due date if it's a paid project, or if it's not a paid project, whatever day I want to post it. And just to the right of that, I'll add any details or context that I need, that way I can reference it later on. And the details can be as thorough as you want since this does not show up on the calendar. Then I have a notes column in case there's any specific requirements you have to meet. And to the right of that, we have the combined cell that will show up on the content planner. And you can make this column either visible or not visible with a toggle up top. Once you assign a date, you can simply click the row and drag it up to be in chronological order with the rest of your content. And now your content is planned. So if you go to the content calendar, on the date you selected, you'll see the summary of all the content details in the cell underneath that date. If you want to look at a different month, all you have to do is double click on the header and use the pop-out calendar to select the first of the month that you want to look at. And once you see that, you'll see the full month of content that either happened or is planned. And on the right side, we have our color legend, just to remind yourself what stage each of your content is currently in. All right, so I'm going to change this back to August. And as you can see here on August 1st, we have the content that we just made. If I change the status to in filming, if I go back to the calendar, it now is yellow. And this color formatting will update automatically whenever I change it to a new status. And once the content is finished and I either upload it as a draft to social media or I schedule it or I submit it to the company, I'll change the status to submitted. And for all intents and purposes, that's ready to go. And then from there, all I have to do is wait for the time to roll around to publish the content or get approval. And once it's time, I can change the status to published/accepted. And once I make that edit, it will automatically move that entire row from the content planner to the bottom of the past content tab. And if I go back to my content calendar, it's now italicized and in gray. And that indicates that it's past content that's already been published. So with this flow, we have a holistic view of what exactly we're posting and what status everything is in. We can easily make edits on the Content Planner tab, and all of our past content is moved to a separate tab. That way it doesn't clutter up our content planner. But everything is still included with the content calendar. That way nothing is missed. If you have paid content, you can simply add an amount under the amount column. This way everything is logged so you can keep track of which content has priority over other content. So that's a full walkthrough of the tracker. The only thing that I did not cover is that you can select idea from the content planner and it will move that line over to the idea bank instead. So now let's make it from scratch. So the first thing we're going to do is open up a new spreadsheet and we'll rename that whatever you want it to be. I'll rename this as Content Planner Tutorial. And instead of making everything from scratch, Google Sheets now has tables. And within those tables, we have pre-built content such as a content tracker. So we're going to use that content tracker as a base. And if the table pop-up did not automatically appear for you, all you have to do is go to Insert Tables, and you'll see that pop-up populate. All right, so now we have the base of what we need, but I want to reorder and reformat some of the columns. So I'll click on column G and move that to column A. I'll go to Edit Column Type and change that to text, and I'll rename that as Platform/Company. And to make sure we have enough room, I'll click the line between columns A and B and drag it over to the right just a hair. That way it's a little bit bigger. I'll drag column C to column B instead, and then column F to column D. I'll drag column G to be column E, and then I'll drag the new column G to be column F instead. I'm going to change the edit type on that one to be a currency, and we're going to change the name to amount. Now I'm going to right click on column H and say insert one column to the right, and I'll rename that column as Combined Descriptions. We don't need the table pop-up anymore, so we can go ahead and exit out of that. And now we just see our table. We want to make a few more edits, so I'll click on Post Date Header and change that to Delivery/Post Date. I'll click on the Content Header and change that to Content Ideas. Then we're going to click on the full header details and change the color to green or whatever color you want it to be. And if you want to pick a different color that's not already there, you can click on the plus underneath to select your own color. Next, we want to update the drop downs. So I'll click on one of the drop downs and click on the pencil. And I'm going to change these options. I'll change the first option to short video. Then I'll put R&D plus video, Substack post, IG post, vlog, long video. And I'm going to change that color to green. Other, change it to orange. YT poll, change that to brown. And repost and make that black. Then I'll hit done. And once I hit done, it will apply those drop-down options to every single drop-down in that column. I'm going to go to column D and do the same exact thing. So I'm going to change the options that are currently there. I'll change the first option to pending. Then I'm going to add a new option and put in development. And I'll click the dots to drag that option just below pending. And I'll make that blue as well. Then I'll put in filming. And I forgot to include pending voiceover here, so you can add that in. Then we'll put pending edit and make that a teal. We'll put submitted, make that purple. Then we'll put publish/accepted and make sure you're paying attention to the spelling of this. You'll see later on that we need this to be a trigger. I'll make that green. Then we'll put delayed, make that red. Then we'll add a new option, input idea, and make that black. Alright, so now you can see that all of the options that we currently have error messages, and that's because they're no longer valid options. But once I delete those, we'll be able to use the drop downs just like normal. The next thing we want to do is add more rows so we have more space. So in the bottom left hand corner, we'll change 1000 to 100 and click add. And now we have 100 more rows than we originally did. We're going to go to column I and make that a little bit bigger so we have more space for the combined descriptions. And in column I, we're going to build a join formula. But before we do that, it's easier to make sure you're doing things correctly if you have actual data. So I'm going to go ahead and put all socials, I'll put long video, I'll put content planner, and then a status. You can do whatever you want. This is just for example purposes. And while you're at it, go ahead and select the new delivery date as well. That way it will populate later on. For the join, we're going to take the contents of columns A through D only. So the formula will be equals if, open parentheses, is blank, open parentheses, A2, close parentheses, comma, comma, join, open parentheses, quote, dash, quote, comma, A2, colon, D2. And then once that formula is built, we'll go ahead and drag that formula down to the rest of the rows. So now if column A is blank, it will be blank. But if it has any text or data, it will go ahead and add that to the combined descriptions. So as you can see, the combined descriptions are live, but they're a little bit hard to read because we just have a dash between. So instead of having just a dash, we'll put quote, space, dash, space, quote. And these extra spaces will make it a little bit easier to read. Then we'll drag that formula down to the rest of the rows to update everything. All right, so now my table is essentially complete. I'm going to go ahead and delete the content in row 3. And then I'm going to click on row 2, right click and say insert one row above. And I'm going to make that row super tiny. That's going to be a placeholder to make sure our formula does not get messed up later on. Then we're going to right click on the sheet, click rename, and I'll rename this as content planner. And yes, that name does matter since the automation will point towards the name content planner. Then we'll click on column I, go to view more column actions. And once you select that, you'll have this plus minus toggle to either hide or show that combined descriptions column. And we did that because it's not really needed for this table. It's more of just a flow through for the calendar. The next thing we'll do is right click on the content planner tab and click duplicate. And we're going to rename this as Idea Bank. And once again, the name does matter. But this time I'm going to delete everything that's already there. And we also don't need the last two columns, so I'll expand column I and delete both columns I and column H. So we'll right click on the columns and press delete. To keep things neat, we'll go to the very top left corner where the table name is. And we're going to delete all the contents of the table name and put Idea Bank instead. And since you can't have any spaces, we put an underscore instead. And next I'm going to change the color of the table to black. And I'm changing the colors of the table, that way I don't get confused which table I'm looking at later on. I'm going to go back to the content planner, right click on the content planner tab and click duplicate. And then I'm going to right click on that and rename that as past content. And I'm going to change the table color. This time I'm going to select red to remind myself not to edit this later on. And once again, I'm going to delete the content that's already there. Just like last time, the combined descriptions don't really need to be visible at all times, so we have that toggle. I'm going to change the order of the tab so past content is last. So I'll just simply click and drag the past content tab to the very last spot. In the top left, I'm going to rename this table as past underscore content. And everything is looking good with this tab now. So I'm going to right click on the past content tab, select duplicate, and I'm going to rename this new tab as combined underscore lists. And I also want to rename the tab, so I'll right click on that tab, select rename, and change that to combine lists. And in here, we're going to combine the contents of the content planner and past content tabs. So in cell A3, we'll type equals query, open parentheses, open curly bracket. Then we're going to go to the content planner and select columns A2 all the way through the end of column I. Then we'll put a semicolon, go to past content, and we'll do the same thing. So we want to select the past content cells A2 through the end of column I. And then we're going to put a closed curly brace. And what this will do is it will stack all of the content in the content planner on top of all of the past content. But we don't want to include any rows that are blank. So after a comma, we'll put our query. In quotes, we'll put select asterisk, where call 1 is not null. And now we have everything that's in the content planner right on top of everything that's in the past content. You should always be testing your spreadsheets, so we'll go to the content planner, and then right underneath the first content, we'll write test 1. Select whatever type you want to select, put whatever content idea you want to select, and then whatever status you want to select as well. And as you can see in column I, it's constantly updating. And if we go to our combined list, you'll see that between the two that were originally there, you have that new test. And that's because it's always going to put everything that's listed in the content planner on top and anything that's listed in the past content tab on the bottom. All right, so now we need to add the automation. So what you're going to do is go to my link in bio, click on beacons, then select app script code. You'll see one that says content planner. Select that. Then in the top right, you'll see a button that says copy raw file. Click that and that will copy all of the code. Then we'll go back to our spreadsheet, go to extensions, app script, delete every single thing that's currently there, and then you'll simply paste the code you just copied. We'll change the name. It doesn't really matter what you change this one to, so I'm going to go ahead and just put move rows, but you can put whatever you'd like, and then we'll hit save. Now once you save it, we can go back to our spreadsheet and we'll have live automation. And just like last time, we want to go ahead and test this out. So first we'll go to our idea bank tab, and we're going to put whatever content example you want to put in there. So I'll put idea test, select whatever type, I'll put short video, whatever content idea you want, I'll just put idea. And then we want to select pending since that's what the automation is built off of. And you should see that row be automatically deleted from the idea tab and move to the bottom of the content planner. And if you were to select idea from the content planner, you should see it automatically move to the idea tab. Now, as you can see, it's hidden, and that's because it's in that hidden row that we had as a buffer for the other tables. But in the idea bank, we don't need that buffer row, so we can go ahead and just expand that and it will act as a normal row. All right, so let's keep testing it out. So we're going to flip this back to pending. And just like last time, it should automatically be removed from the idea bank tab and move to the bottom of the content planner. And now once we select publish/accepted, it should automatically move from the content planner tab to the bottom of the past content tab. As you can see, it didn't. And the reason why is because we have a discrepancy in the spelling between the names. In the app script code, there is no space between the slash and the A, but in our option, there is. So I just need to delete that and hit done. And now once I select that option, it will automatically be removed from the content planner tab and added to the bottom of the past content tab. Now here you can see that the options don't match, so I made an error and selected the old option, but we're going to fix that a little bit later on. All right, so now we're going to make the content calendar. So we'll insert a new tab and name that content calendar. I'm going to make column A super small. And I'm going to make column 1 super small as well. This isn't really needed. It just gives a little bit of a buffer between the edges and the calendar itself. And the calendar is going to go through column H. So I'm going to make column I super small as well. I'm going to select columns B through H. And I'm going to drag one of the lines in between to make them a little bit bigger. That way we have enough space for all of our text. I'm going to select B2 all the way through H2, click merge. And now I want to add a pop-out calendar, so I'll go ahead to data, data validation, add rule. Then I'll use the drop-down criteria to isValidDate and hit done. Then I'll exit out of the data validation. Then I'll double-click on that merge cell and use the pop-out calendar to select August 1st or whatever the first month is that you want to choose. And now we want to change the format. So I'll click on the cell, go to Format, Number, Custom Date and Time. And I'm going to change the month to the full name of the month and delete everything else, then hit Apply. So now, even though technically on the back end it says August 1st, 2024, the only thing we see is August. In row 3, I'm going to put the days of the week. I start my calendar on Sunday, so if you start your calendar on Monday instead, you'll need to adjust the formula later. And for the formula in cell B4, we'll type equals EO month, open parentheses, select cell B2, which is our merge cell. Then we'll put a comma, -1, close parentheses, minus weekday, open parentheses, cell B2, comma, 3. And with this formula, the date that it provides should be this Sunday before the first of the month. So let's use the pop-out calendar in B2 to check it, and it's giving exactly that. Alright, so now we need the rest of the dates that are in the calendar. So let's click on cell C4, and we'll type equals B4 plus 1. Then we can use the fill handle in the bottom right-hand corner to simply drag that formula to the rest of the columns. Now we want to leave room for our content, so we'll skip 3 rows down to B8 and put equals H4 plus 1. Then we'll simply copy cells C4 through H4, and we'll paste those in cell C8. Then we'll copy B8 through H8, and we'll skip 3 rows again and paste that in column 11, then 16, then 20, and row 24. And the reason why we're doing so many weeks is because sometimes the month splits into 6 weeks. Now we have a lot of cells that we don't actually need, so I'm going to go all the way down to row 28, and I'm going to select that all the way down to the end of the spreadsheet and delete all of those rows. Then I'm going to go to our columns. I want one more column, that way we have room for our legend. So I'm going to select columns K all the way through the end of the columns and delete all of those. So now we just have our full calendar, but we need to format it a little bit differently to make it a little bit easier to read. So I'm going to select the 3 rows between the 2 dates. I'm going to click one of the lines in between the rows and drag that down to make all of those columns bigger. I want to apply that same exact width to all of the other rows that will have tasks as well. So I'm going to click on all 3 of those rows, hit the paint button, and then select the first row of the new section. And I'll keep doing that until I'm done expanding all the sections. And spoiler alert, I do this a couple of times, so if you want to hold off until the very end, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Alright, so now we want to build the formula that will bring in all of our tasks that are associated with that date. So I'm going to put equals if error, open parentheses, array underscore constrain, open parentheses, filter, open parentheses. We're going to go down to our combined list tab and select all of column I, then put a comma. Then we'll select all of column E, put an equal sign, then go back to our content calendar and select the date that's right above this formula. Then we'll close the parentheses, put a comma, 3, comma, 1, close parentheses, comma, blank, close parentheses. And what this formula is saying is that we want to filter column I from the combined list tab. So it only shows up if column E lists the date that's reflected right above it. The array is going to be constrained by the top 3 content that's being assigned for that date, so you shouldn't have any more than 3. And if there's an error, it's going to be blank. For example, there is no content for that date, so that's why it's showing as blank. Now we need to change these ranges to absolute references before we can apply these to the rest of the columns. So now that everything is an absolute reference except for the date, we can use the fill handle in the bottom right-hand corner to drag that formula over to the rest of the columns. Now I'm going to copy all of the row and paste that in columns 9, 13, 17, 21, and 25. So now the formula is all set up. So anytime a content is listed as having a posting date of that date, it will be reflected in this calendar under that date. Now I'm going to change the formatting some more, so I want the text wrap to wrap around. That way we can see all of the content, not just part of it. And I'm going to change it to be centered. And we can make this row a little bit bigger to see everything if we want to. We can change the formatting later on though. I'm going to go ahead and add some formatting to all of our days of the week. So I'm going to make it bold in size 12. Then I'll make the month size 17 and bold. I'm going to select the first round of dates and make those bold as well. So now we have bolded dates and slightly larger rows. So now I'm going to paint the sections just like I did last time with the new format. I'm going to kind of skip ahead through this since you already know how to do it. And now we're going to add some conditional formatting. So I'll select cells A3 all the way through H27. Go to Format, Conditional Formatting. Then use the drop down to select is equal to. Put equals today, open parentheses, close parentheses. And put a yellow color. And now if the date is that date, That date will be highlighted as yellow. I filmed this on July 28th, that's why it's showing that as highlighting as today. Now we're going to duplicate this rule by clicking in it and hitting add another rule. Then I'm going to change the drop down to is empty and put none, then hit done. And the order does matter on this, so make sure that you do this in the exact order that I have it. Now we're going to add another rule, so we're going to click into there, click add another rule to duplicate it, and we're going to change the drop down menu all the way down to custom formula is. And for the formula, we'll put equals month, open parentheses, $B, $2, not equals to, month, open parentheses, A3, close parentheses. And for these, we're going to change the fill color to a light gray and the text to a dark gray. So now any dates that are not included in the current month that's selected will have a light gray background and a dark gray text. So now we're going to go back into this to duplicate it, click add another rule. We'll simply delete the not equals to and put equals to instead. And I'm going to put the fill color as green and the text color as black, then hit done. So now any date that's in the month that's selected will be green with a black text. Next, we want to do the conditional formatting for the tasks themselves based on what status they're currently in. So we'll duplicate the task, then change the drop down to text contains. We'll put in filming, change the fill color to this yellow color, and then we'll hit done. And now we're going to do the same exact thing and duplicate this over and over again for each of the different options that we have. And the colors that you put for each option will be what we list on our color legend to the right of our calendar. So keep doing that with all the different options. And once you're done, you should have every single one of these options in this order. And if you have them in a different order, all you have to do is click on the dots to the left and drag it up and down to reorder them. So we have today, then cell is empty, then the month is not equal to B2, the month is equal to B2, contains in filming, contains pending edit, contains submitted, contains published/accepted, contains delayed, contains pending voiceover. Now I'm going to select cell B2 and change the color background to just a shade darker of the shade that we have for the current month, and then select all the days of the week and make that the same shade that we have for the current month. But you can do whatever color scheme you want, it's your template. So if you want the days of the week to match the month instead, all you have to do is just make the edit. Now I'm going to select the entire table from B2 all the way down through row 27, and I'm going to add some border formatting. So I'll select all the borders, and then I'll select just the outside borders. Then I'm going to make the outside borders just slightly bigger than everything else. Now I realize that all of our dates are showing the full date. Instead of that, we want to just have the day of the month. So I'm going to select all of the row, go to Format, Number, Custom Date and Time, delete the month, then use the drop down to select day, and then I'll use that drop down to select day with leading 0. Then I'll hit apply, and now we just have the actual day of the month and not anything else. And then I'm going to paint that format down to the rest of the sections. And as you can see, even though we painted the formatting, the color scheme will still be based off of what the conditional formatting is instead of the manual formatting that we have. And that's because conditional formatting will always come first. So we always have the day of the week and the month visible. We're going to click on the thick gray line to the bottom of the top left corner and drag that just below row 3. And this will freeze these rows so they're always visible no matter how far down you go. And now we're going to create the color legend. So in row J3, we'll type color legend. Then starting in J4, we'll type every single one of our statuses that we have. And these will be the same statuses that we just created conditional formatting for. So we have pending and in development, delayed, in filming, pending edit, pending voiceover, submitted, and published/accepted. We can make it a little bit wider just so it looks better. Then we'll select all of those cells, make it center, and add some formatting. And just like last time, we'll go ahead and make it a small formatting for the cross. And then for the outside rim, we'll make it larger. So now we need to add some coloration. So I'm going to click on one of the days of the week, hit paint, and put color legend as that. And I'm going to make it centered. And while I'm at it, I'm going to select all the days of the week, and I'm going to make those centered as well. And then from there, I just need to click on each of the individual statuses and add the same color that I have for the conditional formatting. And if you forgot which color you chose, you can go to Format Conditional Formatting to bring up that editor, then click into the calendar to see exactly which one you did. So to add a color, all you have to do is just click on the status, then go to Fill Color and change the background color to whatever you chose. And once you're done with that, you can simply look at the conditional formatting to make sure everything matches up directly and you're good. Now it looks like some of my rows have been expanded, some of them haven't, so I want to make sure they're the same size just for uniformity. So I'm going to select all 3 rows in each of the sections And you can select multiple different ranges by holding down Command or Control. And once I have everything selected, I can select one of the lines between the rows. And once I adjust the width, every single one of the rows that are selected will have a uniform width. Alright, so now we're done with the content calendar and it's ready to go. We don't really need to see the combined list tab because that's more of a flow through just so we have everything in one place. So I can right click on that tab and click hide sheet. And it's still there, it's just not visible. To see it again, all I have to do is click on the 3 lines. We can test out our calendar by selecting the first of a different month, and the calendar itself should update based on the date that's selected. And we can test out the formula by going into our content planner, adding different content and selecting a date, and that content should be visible on the content calendar based on what date you select. So I'll go ahead and add some of our past content as well just for some more options. And you can see that everything is now visible on the calendar based on the date that's selected. Now you can also notice that there is no conditional formatting for all of our past content, and that's because of that screwy, whether it has a space or not between the dash and the A. So now that everything is done, we're going to align this once and for all. So we're going to go to conditional formatting, and we're going to pick a lane. So I'm going to go ahead and put a space between published-accepted. And as you can see, the conditional formatting is now working properly, indicating that this is past content. Now I want to test out the other conditional formatting while we're here. So I'll go to Content Planner and change the end filming to pending edit. Go back to our content calendar and it is the proper color. I'm going to drag the content calendar tab to just behind Content Planner for simplicity's sake. Then I'm going to go to the content planner and change the status to delayed. And I'll confirm the color is correct, which it is. Then go back to the content planner and change that status to a different one. Let's do publish/accepted. And then that will move it to the bottom of the past content tab. But if you remember, the drop down for the content/planner had the other pending/accepted one. So we need to go ahead and adjust that. And then we need to go back into the content planner and change that status to the correct status. So we'll go ahead and add the space in between there to have everything aligned for the spelling. But if you remember, our app script would not work based off of that spelling. So we need to go into our app script to fix it. So we'll go to Extensions, App Script. And then once this loads, you'll see this section where it says publish/accepted. All you need to do is add a space right there and hit save. So now everything's good to go. So once we change the status to pending/accepted, it will automatically move that line all the way to the bottom of the past content tab. And if we go to our content calendar, you'll see that it's conditionally formatted correctly as well. So now the spreadsheet's essentially complete. Last thing we're going to do is right-click on each of the tabs and add different colors to them. That way we can visually separate them since a lot of the tabs look the same. So I'm going to make the content planner green and the content calendar green since those are, yes, we should be working these. The idea bank we'll put black and the past content we'll put red. And if you want to hide the past content, you can right-click on it and select hide sheet. And if you want to see that again or the combined list, all you have to do is just go onto the 3 lines and you can see both of the hidden sheets. Anything in light gray is hidden, anything in black is not. So that's how to build and use the content planner. I hope you like this video, and if you do, make sure to like and subscribe for more.